Most of us know the basics. Book early, pack light, and show up on time. But there are a dozen specific decisions that quietly separate a smooth, enjoyable voyage from one that grinds you down before you reach the second port. A few of them will surprise you. But here are the 12 tips every senior should know before they sail. Tip number 12. Pick the right cabin, not just the cheapest one. The cabin is where cruise problems often begin, and most people do not figure that out until they're already on board and losing sleep. For seniors, the cabin decision is really a question of how your body will hold up across a full week at sea. Midship cabins are the starting point. When a ship rolls in rough water, the middle of the vessel moves the least. The further you go toward the bow or stern, the more you feel every swell. Seniors with inner ear sensitivity, balance concerns, or any history of seasickness will notice this difference immediately. Deck level matters too. Lower to mid-deck sit closer to the waterline and move less. High decks can look impressive on paper, but they tend to rock more, and they put you further from main amenities if mobility is a factor. Then there's noise. Cabins directly below the pool deck catch deck chairs being dragged at 6 in the morning. Rooms next to elevators hear the mechanical hum all night. Cabins near theaters get sound bleeding through the walls on late performance nights. If a travel agent cannot tell you exactly what is above, below, or beside a cabin, ask for a deck plan and check it out yourself before you pay. The 5 minutes it takes to look at that diagram is one of the best investments in the whole trip. A cruise feels very different when your cabin works with you instead of against you. And once that part is right, the next decision becomes even more important because it affects your body before the ship even leaves port. Tip number 11. Do not arrive in the cruise city at the last minute. Flying into the departure city on the same morning you board is a gamble that does not pay out well for seniors. The math is simple, but people ignore it every time. Flights run late, luggage gets delayed, connections fall apart, ground transport hits traffic, and cruise ships do not wait. Once the departure window closes, the gangway goes up regardless of who's still in a taxi on the highway. Arriving at least one day early removes most of that risk and gives you something that rarely gets enough credit: buffer time to rest before the voyage begins. Embarkation day is one of the most exhausting parts of a cruise. Crowds, check-in lines, a massive, unfamiliar ship, and often a morning flight that lands on the same day. If you arrive the night before, that process feels completely different. Pre-cruise hotels near the port are easy to find in most departure cities and are often priced reasonably when booked with some lead time. Some cruise lines offer hotel packages that include transfer to the ship, which takes one more variable off the board. The extra night costs money, but missing the ship entirely costs more. And the peace of mind that comes from waking up 10 minutes from the port the morning of embarkation is something most seniors who have done it once will never trade away. Tip number 10. Never lose sight of your passport at the port. The port is not a calm place, and that's worth saying directly before getting into the specifics, because a lot of advice around passport security assumes you will have time and quiet to think carefully. At embarkation, you will not. Cruise terminals are loud, crowded, and designed to move large numbers of people through multiple checkpoints as fast as possible. You'll be juggling boarding documents, luggage tags, embarkation cards, and photo identification while staff direct you. Other passengers push past, and announcements echo overhead. It is a genuinely distracting environment, and distraction is exactly when things go missing. Passports disappear at ports in 3 main ways. They get set down at a counter and not picked back up. They slide out of an outer bag pocket during the bag drop scramble. Or they get handed to a travel companion and the handoff is forgotten in the confusion. A travel document pouch worn under clothing solves all 3 problems at once. It stays on your body. It does not come out until you're at the security counter, and it goes back on immediately after. Neck pouches and waist pouches both work. The key is that the passport never goes into an outer pocket, a tote bag, or anyone else's hand. The pouch costs less than $10. Use it. This is the kind of mistake people assume only happens to someone else, but at the port, small distractions turn into expensive disasters very fast. And that brings us to something just as important once you're finally on board. Tip number 9. Pack every medication in your carry-on, not in checked luggage. Checked luggage on a cruise is handled differently than checked luggage on a flight. When you drop your bags at the terminal, they travel through crew corridors and are delivered to your cabin later, sometimes hours after you board. On peak embarkation days, that can mean waiting until the afternoon or early evening. And for most passengers, that's an inconvenience. For seniors who take daily medication on a schedule, it can be a genuine medical problem. Everything you need in the first several hours of the cruise should be in a carry-on that stays with you from home to cabin. Prescription medications in their original labeled bottles, plus extras in case the trip runs long. Inhalers, insulin supplies, eyeglasses, hearing aid batteries, and mobility aids that you cannot manage without. A printed copy of your complete medication list with dosages and your prescribing doctor's name, which becomes essential if the ship's medical center needs to treat you for anything. Keep it in a small personal bag that never leaves your side during embarkation. Tip number 8. Book excursions based on stamina, not just interest. Shore excursions are one of the great pleasures of cruising, and also one of the most reliable ways to ruin a day if you choose the wrong one. Excursion descriptions are written to sell. They focus on the destination and the experience. They do not always spell out how long you'll be walking, how uneven the terrain is, whether there are restrooms at the site, or how much standing is involved between the interesting parts. Before booking, ask the specific questions that the marketing language avoids. How many minutes of walking total? On flat ground or cobblestones? Are there stairs and how many flights? What's the longest stretch without restroom access? Does the tour involve a tender boat transfer? How much time is spent standing versus seated? If the written description does not answer these, contact the excursion team directly. The best excursion for a senior is the one that matches your actual stamina on that particular day, in that particular port, in that level of heat. Coming back to the ship tired but happy is the goal. Coming back sunburned, aching, and too worn out to enjoy dinner is not a win. Tip number 7. Do not assume the ship's medical center is a simple backup plan. Cruise ship medical facilities are equipped for stabilization and basic treatment, but the equipment is limited compared to a full hospital, and so are the costs of pretending otherwise. A short consultation and a prescription can run several $100s. Anything more serious moves into thousands. And ships do not bill your regular health insurance the way a domestic provider would, and Medicare typically has no coverage at sea. A helicopter evacuation or emergency hospitalization in a foreign port can reach 5 or 6 figures without coverage in place. Travel insurance with medical and evacuation coverage is not optional for seniors who cruise regularly. It's a basic part of the trip cost. Beyond insurance, bring enough medication for the full trip plus a few extra days. Pharmacies in foreign ports may not carry your prescription or have the right dosage. Pay attention to small health warnings early. A manageable situation on day 2 becomes complicated on day 6 when the next port is a full day away. Now, the best cruises are usually decided long before the buffet photos and sail-away views. And the next few tips are where comfort, safety, and energy really start separating a smooth trip from a draining one. Tip number 6. Respect the walking distance on a cruise ship. Cruise ships look compact in photos. In person, they are remarkably large. A mid-sized ship might have 10 or 12 decks of passenger space, with the dining room at one end and your cabin at the other. Getting from the cabin to breakfast, from breakfast to the gangway, back to the ship, back to the cabin, and down to dinner covers a lot of ground. Seniors who underestimate this hit a wall around day 3 or 4 when cumulative fatigue catches up. Footwear is the first fix. Supportive, well-fitted walking shoes make a measurable difference on a cruise ship. Hard flooring and long corridors take a toll on feet and joints. Sandals that feel fine on dry land for a few hours become painful by the end of a full ship day. Cabin placement is the second fix. Proximity to the elevator bank and main dining areas matter more than a premium view if mobility is a consideration. And pacing is the third. Sitting down for 20 minutes between activities is not laziness. It's what keeps you going at full capacity in the afternoon and evening, when the best parts of the day often happen. Now, this is one of the quiet truths about cruising. You may not be climbing anything difficult, but the ship will still wear you down if you move through it without thinking about the physical cost. And that's exactly why the next tip matters more than most people give it credit for. Tip number 5. Be careful with balcony safety, especially at night. A balcony cabin adds real value to a cruise. It also adds a surface that's easy to get careless about, and carelessness in that particular spot has consequences. The risks are ordinary, not dramatic. Low lighting at night makes it harder to judge the height of the balcony threshold. Wet decking from rain or sea spray is slippery in a way that catches people off guard. Medication side effects, particularly anything that affects balance or causes drowsiness, change how you move in ways that don't always feel obvious in the moment. The balcony rail is designed to be leaned against, but it's not designed to be pressed against with full body weight or used for leverage when getting up from a chair. Most balcony incidents at sea involve someone reaching for something they set on the rail or standing up too quickly in the dark. Keep the balcony dry by leaving the door closed when not in use. Use the interior lock at night so the door does not drift open from wind pressure. And if you've had a few drinks at dinner, wait until the morning to enjoy the view. The view will still be there. Tip number 4. Eat and hydrate with the next day in mind. Seniors are more susceptible to dehydration than younger travelers, and the cruise environment accelerates it. Air conditioning removes moisture from indoor air continuously. Sun on deck or in port pulls hydration out faster than most people notice until the symptoms arrive. Alcohol, which flows freely and is heavily marketed on cruises, compounds the problem directly. Dehydration at sea does not always announce itself with thirst. It shows up as fatigue, headache, and dizziness, all easy to attribute to motion sickness or just a long day. Carrying a refillable water bottle and drinking from it consistently rather than waiting to feel thirsty handles most of this without effort. Now, on the food side, a heavy meal at night followed by an early excursion and morning heat is a combination that tends to go poorly. Rich food, salt, and alcohol hit harder after 60 than they did after 30. Feeling fine at the end of dinner is not a reliable indicator of how you'll feel the next morning. One practical approach that works well for many senior cruisers is eating lighter in the evening and making the midday meal the more substantial one. It matches the ship's activity pattern and generally leaves you feeling better across the following day. Tip number 3. Plan around elevator crowds before they become a problem. Elevators on a cruise ship are a convenience that disappears exactly when you need them most. Dinner service release sends hundreds of passengers toward the same bank of elevators at once. Embarkation day has everyone trying to reach their cabin simultaneously. Theater showings end and empty their entire audience into the elevator lobby. Port return in the afternoon is another pressure point. During those windows, a 5-minute wait stretches to 15 or 20 minutes, with each car arriving close to capacity. For seniors with mobility limitations, that wait is more than inconvenience. It's physically draining, especially at the end of a long excursion day. The fix requires building the schedule around it. Leave for dinner 10 minutes before the rush. Return from excursions with time to spare. If the theater show ends and you're tired, sit in the lobby for a few extra minutes and let the crowd clear. Find the secondary elevator bank most passengers ignore. Use the stairs for a single deck if mobility allows. None of this eliminates the problem, but it takes most of the frustration out of it once you know what to expect and stop competing with the crowd for the same 3 cars at the same peak moments. A lot of cruise stress is not dramatic. It's cumulative. Small delays, small waits, small physical drains that build across the day. And that is what makes the next tip so valuable, because it's specifically designed to protect your energy across the full length of the trip. Tip number 2, build in more rest than you think you need. The instinct to fill every hour of a cruise is understandable. These trips cost real money, and the sense that you should be doing something to justify the cost is difficult to shake. The result for most seniors is hitting a wall around day 4 and spending the second half of the cruise too tired to appreciate what's in front of them. Sea days are the most natural opportunity for built-in rest. Instead of treating them as bonus activity days to fill completely, use them as partial recovery days. Sleep in, spend time on deck without committing to a specific activity. Return to the cabin in the early afternoon before dinner, even for an hour. On port days, choosing to skip one activity on purpose, staying closer to the ship while others head out, is a reasonable call. Not every port requires a full excursion. Sometimes walking the immediate area around the terminal and sitting somewhere pleasant is the better choice for that day. Seniors who come home saying it was the best trip they ever took are usually not the ones who log the most activities. They're the ones who manage their energy well enough to feel good for the full duration. Tip number 1, get serious about getting back to the ship on time. Missing the ship is not a dramatic edge case that happens to careless people. It is a genuine risk that grows whenever the day goes sideways and there's not enough cushion built into the plan. Cruise ships operate on fixed departure schedules, and those schedules are not adjusted for independent passengers who are running late. The ship will leave. Now, there's always a handful of passengers on every sailing who test this and lose. The costs go beyond the embarrassment. You're now in a foreign city with your passport and medication on a vessel that has already left. You are responsible for your own transportation to the next port, which may be in another country, and your own accommodation until you can catch up with the itinerary. Independent shore exploring is one of the genuine pleasures of cruising, but it is also where the risk lives. When you're not on a ship-organized excursion, there is no bus waiting to ensure your return. Local traffic, closed roads, and bad timing are all your problem. The standard advice is to be back on the ship an hour before departure. For seniors exploring independently, 90 minutes is a smarter target. It leaves room for the unexpected without requiring you to miss anything meaningful, and it means you board calmly rather than boarding in a panic. That difference in how the afternoon ends is more significant than it sounds. Now, the most capable senior travelers are not the ones doing the most. They're the ones making fewer bad decisions before problems have a chance to start. If this helped, like the video, subscribe for more cruise advice, and click the next video on your screen. The better trip usually begins before you board, and your voyage is just beginning.